It's Tuesday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Morayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies with me. Waike in the building.
Yo. Good morning.
How are you doing?
Good morning, ladies. Good morning, Lady Morayo, in her coat of many colors. And
everybody has one.
But you have color of everybody inside.
Yes, I do. How are you doing, Waike?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm fine. Remember I had one just to you on Thursday.
Yes, that you forgot.
I remembered it over the weekend. I was watching one of the presidential candidates from ZLP. I can't remember his name, but the party is Zenith Labour Party or something. And he said that when he becomes, because he's going to become president, see, definitely he's the new president. When he becomes president, that he is going to change all our currency. Coins.
He actually said that?
I watched it. They didn't live. I even watched it live.
What was the reason?
Said to avoid corruption.
Oh.
So when you want to be corrupt like this, you go and put all that your coins inside warehouse.
Which is difficult to pack up.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. It's an interesting idea.
And I laughed so heartily. But the truth is,
you have a 1,000 naira coin, for example. You would trade with that. Where would you be keeping?
Make it cashless.
Cashless, you can still be corrupt with cashless.
But every transfer can be traced.
Can be traced.
Yeah, but
where are you going to
coins.
take bags of coins?
Yes, now you can't be carrying. It's so heavy. Where would you carry?
Be doing 20 naira now and 50 naira.
Yes, now let's use
that. If you want to give somebody 1,000 naira with 20 naira, it will look like a lot of money. Because it will be heavy.
I found him really
interesting, hilarious.
Interesting, hilarious.
Let's wait. You never know. The presidency is still open. Elections are still going. You never know. Yeah. ZLP might get a chance.
Today is the last day of the month.
Yeah, it is. Today is 31st.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I feel like January went so fast.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm grateful to God. I was just in Mariah when I was doing makeup that I was appointed vice chair of my neighborhood zone. And the conversation was we need to have more young people involved in what is going on within their environment, because most of the time we leave it to retirees because we feel they have time, but the decisions affect our lives and we should get more involved. And even though I was trying to dodge, I have to now get more involved. I need to know my neighbors because really I don't. And it's just, we talk about it on the show a lot. We're so busy living our lives that we don't realize that our lives also involve other people and we should relate more. Especially as we count down towards election. But please, am I the only one already tired of campaign conversations and election conversations?
I'm just getting started. Because I'm tired as in the regular talk, but
it's speculation. Everywhere you sit down, they just start telling you that. So what are you going to vote for? The way it is looking right now.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Just get your PVC and go and vote.
Yes. How are you doing, Maria?
I'm fine. I just want to rant. See, this cash thing is annoying.
Yes,
yesterday I had to beg for money from the till for them to give me cash so I can pay for, for parking and things like that. It's just annoying. I don't have cash anywhere. I'm tempted to go and buy one of those people that sell 10,000 for 5,000. This is annoying.
It's actually ridiculous. Because I was listening to one TV station and they were saying that India, they changed their own in 4 hours. So I really went to go and read up on it. India did not change their own in 4 hours, one. And two, when they changed it, the chaos, people died.
Imagine. They won't say that part.
They won't say that part. As if it happened to
It's
not making sense.
Now,
I can't do anything.
And the thing that they wanted to avoid, they did not even manage to avoid it. The black money. Because people with the black money just went to go and buy diamonds and gold and things and kept their money with the...
I went to get engine oil for my gen. They said they would not take transfer because sometimes, the bank issues, and they would not take anything other than cash, no cash. So no engine oil inside gen. So no cash. It just
makes life complicated.
It's so complicated. The cash and that 10 days is not going to work.
At all.
We need to do something.
They're only giving 10,000, 50 naira, 100 naira, 10 naira. Those are the cards. Those are the cash that is available at clients right now.
To compare ourselves to England, it's ridiculous. Because England, they can do cash because it's a credit.
Yes.
They deal with credit. You have credit card. Here, it's debit card we have now. I wish credit. Is it Yaoni Rice? As we've been told that Emefiele has an agenda. He's trying to. He has a few objectives. Yes, he told us that he's trying to stop the kidnappers
from being able to use the money with them. Also know that he's trying to target politicians. And either way, listen, this is not, it's not at what cost. We are suffering.
Asking that they
If I
should
have
bring
50
new notes to
billion
them.
Yeah.
or 5 billion, even just 5 billion in an account, and I call the bank manager, I have 5 billion, and I say, I need 50 million.
They will bring it for you. They will bring it to you.
Of new money. You will tell me you will not bring it.
You will.
Because
I
they need to
collect
keep your
my
money.
and put it to another bank that will give me the cash.
Yeah.
So the politicians that they are targeting, they are all right.
They're all right. It is us. You're very correct. Because we saw them, you saw videos now, new notes, people spraying at parties. So it's not scarce. People who can get it are getting it. It is
not
us
scarce
that we are
at all.
not, that we're not getting it.
To the people, actually, you saw that Ted Nwokolo, what's
Yes,
his
now.
name? His wife.
Several parties, people are there. So it's not scarce. It's people, and the rich people are getting it. So I don't know what Stephen is trying to achieve. Anyway, let's go on a break. When we come back, we go through the front pages of the papers. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
All right, we're going to start with the nation. We'll come back. Banks fail to dispense cash in halls and ATM terminals. Protesters raise APC office, Tinubu Shetima Osun Center. Tinubu, we will use oil to develop Akwa Ibom. How overvoting voided Ademola Adeleke's victory. Diezani steps up bid to reclaim forfeited properties. Suspended land grabbers seal Lagos school. And why Ekiti Cargo Airport is not functional yet by government. Okay, which story are we starting with in the
Let me
nation?
take the major headlines. So banks are failing to dispense cash in their halls and also at the ATM. Just like my rant today, they're saying Naira is now on sale, and this is no thanks to the scarcity of both the old and new currencies from bank halls and ATMs. The picture here in the paper shows queues everywhere around, especially this is Lagos and Abuja, but most states across the Federation where you have lots of people standing in queues waiting to get cash. And usually after a few people have been serviced, the rest do not have any cash to take with them. They said that as a result, we have POS operators and other people selling cash for more than they need. So you have someone who was charged 1,000 Naira extra for 10,000 Naira worth of old notes. Then you have an operator that offered to sell 50,000 Naira worth of new notes for 65,000 Naira. They say even Bureau de Change have jumped in on this selling of Naira notes. This is really annoying that this is what we have right now. Anyway, we also have the Chairman of House of Reps ad hoc committee on the new Naira notes, Alhassan Dogwa. He claimed that as far as he's concerned, the new notes is being politicized. He said that it was part of the plot to truncate the chances of APC candidates in the forthcoming elections. He's specifically blaming the CBN governor. He said, as we all know, he wanted to be flag bearer. He ran for the position in APC, and he didn't get a ticket. And so he feels that this is something that he's trying to do to affect the chances of APC at the elections. He says he has spoken to the president, and the president was ill-advised on this particular policy. He said usually when policies like that are supposed to happen, they come and meet with a committee. He says when they were talking about cashless policy, the CBN met with the committee. He said, although as usual, the CBN governor was not there, was the deputy that was there. But to go ahead with this 10-day swap, he has not met with the committee, and he has refused to answer their invitation. And as far as they are concerned, there's something else. There's an agenda concerning this.
And they also said, sorry, Mariah, they also said that they went to the town planning way in Ilukpeju, and that when customers could not get money in the ATM, they went into the hall, and they said they could only pay them with 50 Naira and 100 Naira notes. And then they advised them also to do transfers.
Okay.
Really sad.
All right, so
banks receive 1 million, banks and industries of banks receive 1 million Naira branches a day. And that when that 1 million finishes, they close the ATM.
We're going to take a story.
Yes, I want to take a story about hoodlums. Suspected land grabbers were seen to have sealed off a school within the Barua area of Lagos. These two schools, Shalom Nursery and Primary School and Cedar College, were sealed off over the weekend. They said hoodlums suspected land grabbers came with armed policemen and broke down the gates for the school, which is like a see-through gate, and sealed off the school by just fencing it off completely. They said that they claim to be the owners of the school. They each started on Saturday. As at Monday morning, about 100 students were seen protesting in front of the school that they should save their school and that they are denied access. They want to learn. I really don't like the idea that pupils were now holding placards, and they said the school has been there for 20 years with no...
30.
Okay, Nation here is saying 20 years with no dispute concerning the land. They said the land was allocated to them from federal government,
right,
and they are seeking the help of the governor to step in and assist them.
Okay.
She said that they came and said they have the court order. She asked them to show them the court order. That's the proprietors. They said the man refused, chased all of them out of the school, and then proceeded to block it.
All right, so the flag bearer for the APC presidential ticket was in Akwa Ibom. He said that that state will serve all the prosperity as an oil-producing state. He said that they will enjoy the full benefits as an oil-bearing state, urging them to reject the PDP candidacy. He says your community must benefit more from hosting the oil companies and giving the nation such a revenue that is vital to the government. He also said that they would rob the oil vendors of their ability to rob us as a people. Their security plans will ensure that there's aerial and ground technology to deter vandals from stealing from the people. So Akwa Ibom, according to him, would properly benefit from the revenue of being an oil-producing state under his own regime. Moving on now to the Punch. Buhari's Kano visit, protesting youths barricade road stone helicopter. Panic as Lagos hoodlums invade school and chase pupils. FG backs visa ban, US visa ban on election riggers. 7 directors, Joseph Accountant General's job. 650 naira petrol. Pengasing clamps down on marketers. Return seized assets to me, Diezani tells federal government. New naira racketeering booms in Lagos, Abuja, and Anambra. Okay, which story?
Diezani, they say a former minister for petroleum, Diezani Alice Madueke, has asked the Federal High Court in Abuja to vacate an order granted to EFCC for final forfeiture of her seized assets. Anyway, in simple, because there's lots of legalese, but in simple English, she's saying that her lawyer is asking, according to him, the former minister was not served with the charge sheet and proof of evidence in any of the charges or with any other summons about the criminal charges pending against her in court. Also argued that the courts were misled into making several of the final forfeiture orders against her assets through suppression or non-disclosure of material facts. So all they're saying is that they should hold off on the final forfeiture sale, the public sale of those assets, because due process was not taken into consideration during this. But EFCC, of course, is saying that they have no case. They are before the court, and the court has adjourned it, till I think sometime next month. Sorry, I don't have the date here. Yes, listen to. It has adjourned the matter till May 8th for hearing.
Okay, let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we continue with our reviews. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We're still reviewing Punch. So I was going to take this story, the racketeering. I think Miriam took that story earlier. I was going to add to the fact that Punch sent in a correspondent to a few banks in Lagos, Abuja, and Anambra to investigate, to see what's going on. So the correspondent was able to find that one of the sellers, Abdul Muhammad, was operating in Abuja, was saying that they normally sell the 1,000 naira new notes for 13,000 naira. They sell about 20,000 naira new notes for 26,000 naira. And he was asking that if they needed, if the correspondent needed any more money, so he now asked that if he needs about 600,000 worth of new notes, can he get it? He said, yes, but just I need some time to discuss with my contact in the bank. So it shows that there's serious racketeering going, people are profiteering from this, and this is, again, we the people. We the people. And also the POS, as the operator at Beggar in Lagos State here, was saying, telling the correspondent that they could not get new notes from the banks, that even the bankers are selling the new notes to them at a high rate. So they are charging 5,000 naira for every 100,000 naira. They're charging 1,000 naira for every 10,000 naira. And they're charging, and they have to let go of as high as 10,000 naira in some cases. They also said that the POS shop Beggar was saying that, trying to see her here, I'm trying to get her exact quote. But the bottom line is, there's a lot of profiteering from this. People are profiting, and it's Nigerians. Soon you say it's government. So government will put certain amounts in the banks, especially to give to regular Nigerians. You as a banker.
Japanese?
Sorry?
Are government Japanese?
No.
Are they not Nigerians?
I'm just saying that it's the same people. So it's one thing, the government, but we, a banker who works in a bank, then says, for me to give you new notes, give me this amount. So I'll give you 10,000 naira, you give me 13,000 naira change. So 3,000 naira profit you're making. That's with the people.
People culpable. Let me take the story of what happened to the president.
Who are copying our government people.
So the president's some angry youths in Kano on Monday hurled stones of different sizes at the president's helicopter in Kano. They said that even though there was heavy presence of security at the Aminu Kano International Airport yesterday, when they saw that the president's plane landed and was supposed to use an helicopter to go to the Emir Aminu Bayero, they were throwing stones at him. The protests, the video circulated on social media showing moments when irate youths were throwing stones at the helicopter. One of the reasons, according to the governor of Kano, the press release that the chief press secretary released was that they had tried to reschedule this particular visit because they knew that people were angry. According to him, the reason for the anger mainly is the fact that the redesigned notes and the short timeline to change the money has brought a lot of hardship to residents of the state, and the development has made people angry. He's deeply concerned about the limited time given for Nigerians by the central bank to change their notes, and these are all resolved issues, which was why he asked the president to shift his time. But the good thing is when the president got to the emir's palace and from there moved on to other sites, there were no attacks in the new places where he commissioned projects.
Daily Sun, NLC mass protests loom over fuel and naira scarcity. Wike accuses PDP National Working Committee of anti-party activities. I rescued Atiku when Obasanjo wanted to roast him like a goat meat, says Tinubu. My administration has done well, says President. Buhari commissions NSIA 10 megawatts in Kano solar power project. New notes, amid CBN 11-day grace, cash shortage worsens. Atiku will grant Nnamdi Kanu unconditional release if elected president, says campaign council. And INEC must address votes buying underage voting to gain trust, says Utomi. All right, which story are we starting with?
Can I start with the Rivers State Governor?
Governor Wike.
Yeah, Governor Wike has said that the powers, the organs in the National Working Committee are doing anti-party activities. They are engaging in anti-party activities, that they have asked their lawyers to hands off any case in Rivers State. And according to Wike, that is anti-party, because they have cases. They have cases with the APC and SDP. You say, we carry these small parties, APC and SDP, to court for failing to do what the law says. The small parties. So the National Working, the Oga at the National Working Committee said, no, don't do any case. They shouldn't worry that he has gone to get lawyer for the case, but there is anti-party activity and anti-party. When he starts like this, they will know who he is.
The irony.
You say nobody hurts us without sustaining a scar. Anybody who dares to touch us in Rivers State, I will inflict many scars on him, and he will have it. and we have started it.
Atiede,
We are voting
we need you
for
in
our
Nollywood.
people here.
we need you in Nollywood.
Okay.
I'm trying to copy Wike's voice.
Yes. So Atiku Abubakar, the flag bearer for the PDP, has said that he will release Nnamdi Kanu, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, if he is sworn in May 29th. According to, he's going to be upholding the appeal courts, the appellate court, I believe, judgments freeing Nnamdi Kanu of I'm trying to see the judgment here. He was actually immediately released unconditionally from the appeal court. And so Atiku is saying that he will definitely uphold that judgment and rely on the appeal court judgment to release this Biafra agitator once he's sworn in on May 29th. That's the promise he's making to the South. Everybody's finding ways to appeal to different regions of Nigeria. So
Anyway, our president, as talked earlier, was in Kano yesterday, but he was there to commission some projects like he had done in other states. He also said at the reception that was organized for him that he's very proud of the achievements of his administration's achievements, especially during his second term. He said that, that if we recall, his predecessors from 1999 to 2015 produced an average of 2.1 million barrels of oil per day at a selling price of $100 per barrel. The price of oil, when he assumed office, dropped to about $30 per barrel, while production came down to $500,000 per day. And despite this hard fact, his administration went ahead to perform well in many critical sectors of the economy, including infrastructure. He said that Nigeria is a great country, but also regrets that it is not well appreciated by many citizens. He says a lot of us are forgetful of good things. He says life in Nigeria is better than many other countries, that if we were to compare it to our neighboring countries, that they are preoccupied with how to get one good meal per day, and that is not our problem. And he's also saying that concerning the Boko Haram insurgency, he suspects that some powerful international groups and countries are intent on destroying Nigeria. I think that the activities of Boko Haram is aimed at halting efforts at prospecting petroleum in the Lake Chad region. He also lauded the efforts of the Kano State Governor, Kaduna, Katsina, Lagos, and Kogi, where he had done other commissionings as well.
Let me take the story about Tomi, Professor Tomi, the convener of the Big Tent Coalition for Obidati presidential ticket, has appealed to INEC to ensure they tackle underage voting. He said that some politicians had registered underage people to vote, and that the INEC should prove themselves by ensuring that underage people don't vote. They also mentioned that areas that have been that have recorded insurgents attacked should not be. People that live in such areas should not be disenfranchised. They should find a way to ensure every citizen is covered, nobody is disenfranchised, underage voting doesn't take place, and election monitors should look out for the ways to ensure that these crimes don't take place within the elections. Okay, our final paper of the day, Nigerian Tribune. PDP APC fights over Buhari's visit to Kano. Gboyega bridge accident, Sanwo-Olu directs trial of truck owner and driver. Good. Delta government debunks seeking fresh 100 billion naira cash. Ex-petroleum minister Dezani goes to court over seized assets. DSS intercepts syndicates selling new currency notes and bank officials implicated. Only military aircraft can land in Ikiti Airport, says government. We are campaigning for Tinubu, other APC candidates on Akeredolu's achievements, says party chairman. Atiku will grant Kanu conditional release if elected president. Let me take the Ojo Elegba update. So the governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has directed the prosecution of the owner of the truck and the driver involved in the accident that happened in Ojo Elegba. He has also said that the Ministry of Transportation, the NPA, the Nigerian Port Authority must urgently find lasting solution to the menace of the falling of trucks and the operations of the trucks. Furthermore, he was also referencing the recent conviction of a driver, Sadiq Okonlawon, and the owner of the truck,
Wasiu Lekon of a container that killed 3 persons back on July 26, 2020. They have been prosecuted and convicted, and they're convicted in February 28, 2022. So it's relying on that, saying that we can also prosecute the driver and the truck owner, and they are both in custody as we speak, according to the Commissioner for Information, Gboyega Oyetola, was giving that. So I'm happy about that. They've caught the owner, they've caught the truck driver, and they can prosecute both of them.
I think truck,
You know what they're
truck owners
convicted of?
have to be liable.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't start making them liable, they will
This
not
one's
take
got a life
responsibility
imprisonment. They were sentenced to life imprisonment back in February 2022. So I'm happy that at least with this one also happening, hopefully it sends a strong message to them that they can't go scot-free. Okay, any other story in Tribune? Okay, that's all we can take on front page review this morning. When we return, it's Tuesday. We're bringing our guest from Agza Mansard. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. According to reports, the Osun State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal has reversed the results of the 16 July 2022 governorship election that declared Gboyega Oyetola as the winner of the election. On this segment, we will be understanding the Osun Governorship Tribunal judgment. Join us on the show now is one of the leading counsels on Governor Isiaka Oyetola's legal team, Barrister Tomi Olagunju. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
All right, so when we heard the judgment that happened last weekend, we're thinking to ourselves, okay, what led to this? And I like to start from the beginning, the BVAS. Let's start with the BVAS. Many people, because it's what we're going to be using in the presidential elections, and Osun was one of our first case or so scenarios of using the BVAS. Could you tell us, in your own view, what's the difference in the BVAS system and the O system, and why was it helpful in this judgment that we had recently?
Thank you very much. I think I must state from the onset that I'm not one of the leading counsel in Governor Oyetola's team. It's not fair to take the glory of people who worked so hard to achieve that result.
Okay.
I was at the tribunal a few times, and I understand the history of the case. Let's start this way. Before a voter can be allowed to vote in all the elections we've had since 1999, the first stage is you must get accredited as a voter.
Yes.
But before now, accreditation at the manual. You present your voter's card before the presiding officer, he ticks your name on the voter's register, and then you are accredited. All that means is that the presiding officer is ensuring that the person who has come before him is a registered voter, and it is the registered voter that has come in person. But this was fraught with a lot of irregularities, a lot of them, in the sense that after voting, we've had people sharing ballot papers, 2 parties will agree, ballot stuffing, and then subsequently mark the register to perfect whatever has been done. So INEC became ingenious. INEC brought what we now know as the biometric voter registration. Biometric voter registration means that it became more difficult for someone who is not registered to present himself to vote. But INEC still encountered a challenge. The challenge was, with all the ingenuity of INEC, it was not backed by law. You will remember that in 2015, we used the card reader. In which case you just present your card and it is matched with your thumbprint. And then you can proceed to vote. Again, it was not something that the courts could use to validate or invalidate any election because there was no law backing it up. 2022 became the year of changes. The National Assembly passed the Electoral Act 2022. By Electoral Act 2022, for a person to be eligible to vote, you must be accredited by the electronic means provided by INEC. The implication is that, and this time, it was not just the card reader that we were used to. It's now a bimodal voter accreditation system. It can accredit you by just looking at you or getting your thumbprint.
That's what we call the beavers.
That's the beavers. And it also has another feature. It is electronically enabled to transmit data from that machine to INEC directly without anybody fiddling with it.
Yes.
Okay.
That is the game changer in the Osun election.
Okay.
Now, after the election results were declared in Osun, Governor Gboyega Oyetola, through his lawyers, requested for the reports. For example, these beavers machines that you use transmitted certain things to you. Can I have the reports? When the reports were cross-checked with the result of the election, it showed that in several places, a lot of polling units spread across 10 local governments. There were cases where the number of people who were accredited to vote were far less than the actual people who voted. By implication, the votes had exceeded the number of accredited voters. The implication of that by law is that the votes from those polling units are void.
Well, how is that possible, given how advanced technology is with the beavers? You're there, it shows results. The moment it accredits you, it takes straight to the major server. How is that possible?
Well, what it shows is that people can choose to bypass technology. Wow. But what it means is that technology will catch you.
So does that mean that the INEC officials were complicit?
Well, I will not be that frontal in whatever I will say, but I will tell you that the implication is that people who were not accredited voted. And that infraction was spotted by the technology deployed by INEC.
So the conversation, everybody has felt that the few elections leading up to 2023 elections would serve as a litmus test for how effective this beavers model is and how it will help secure a safe and fair election. But the current governor, the new ruling now has taken out, has said he's going to appeal the case. And that back and forth is what would this mean for the people of Osun State? And what's the legal structure if somebody says that your ruling, I want to appeal it, and then going to court, I will get it to Supreme Court? How would that play out? Okay.
The law is that if an incumbent is ousted by the decision of a tribunal and he has a right of appeal, you will not remove him from office until he has exhausted
so that means
the channel of appeal.
He's still in power.
So the incumbent has 21 days to decide whether or not he wants to appeal. Within those 21 days, he will not be disturbed at all.
Okay.
But the appeal must be decided within 60 days from the date that decision was made by the election tribunal.
Okay, so not when he filed, but this previous decision.
Yes.
You know, we've seen cases where appeals will go on and then the governor, you know, in court would have done maybe like a term and a term plus before it's renewed. Some people ask the question, is it worth it? Is it, and is there a difference, since the electoral bill had been passed, is there any difference that we'll be seeing going forward when it comes to cases like that?
It has always been there. After the 2010 long debacles of Ngige, Aregbesola, Mimiko, Oshiomole, the law is that appeals, the tribunals will spend not more than 180 days after the filing of the petition to determine the petition. That has been done. There are two more possible stages. The governor has said he's going to appeal. He has within 21 days to appeal, but that appeal has 60 days to be determined. So it cannot go on in perpetuity. It must end on or before 60 days.
So after the appeal, if he loses that, sorry, Mura, if he loses that appeal, he can go again to the Supreme Court.
Yes. So
That's
what
how
it means
many
is
days?
that
That's how many
all
days?
this debacle will end
180.
within 120 days.
20 days.
Now, so I found it quite interesting, the fact that there were two Beavers reports presented to the tribunal. One from the APC that they received, and one that INEC provided during the petition, and how the judge was able to come. How could you just give an explanation? Because many of us were wondering how they came about their decision based on these
There were actually
reports. Three, okay.
Yes. Okay, I've explained earlier on that. Immediately after the election, 13, 14 days thereafter, the governor requested for a Beavers report. It's just like you have done transactions using the ATM, transfer on your phone, and they say, please give me a statement of my account.
Yeah.
The bank should just simply print it for you
Yes.
because they keep these records.
Right.
Okay.
INEC also kept these records and gave it to Gboyega Oyetola. On the basis of that, he filed a petition that these are the things I can see from the records you have given me. Surprisingly, INEC brought another report trying to cure the defects that was in the first one. The second respondent, the governor himself, went there and said, I've inspected it and I've also discovered certain things. Now the tribunal said, it was very easy for the tribunal to say, even the one you have brought, the two of you who are defending, they are contradictory. They say the same thing about the conduct of the election in these places. The overvoting you are trying to cure has not been cured. In the final address of the petitioners that was reproduced in the judgment, the tribunal took time to say these are the discrepancies in the reports that you yourself have brought, and that your defense is contradictory. I believe the one you gave first, when there was no anticipation of litigation, the one that you gave willingly to somebody who approached you, not the ones that you generated after you know that the matter had gone to court and that they are challenging the results of the election on the basis of the report you gave to them.
So there's also something about the tribunal is also saying that Governor Adeleke may have used forged documents to run for office. Is that then, if it was determined so, how was he then qualified to run?
Okay. Let me take the answer of that after this break. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We still have with us Barrister Tomi Olagunju. Yes, you had a question for him, please.
Yes, I was asking if how it was possible for Governor Adeleke to have run or be qualified to run for that election if the tribunal is also alleging that the documents that were presented for him were forged.
Okay, the reasoning of the tribunal was that, yes, one of the certificates presented was indeed forged. Forged in the sense that the document on his face claimed to have been produced in 1981, but it had Osun State written on it. Osun State was created in 1991. So if you have a document saying this document was made in 1981 and it bears the name of Osun State, you don't need a magician to tell you that that is a forged document.
But that should mean he shouldn't have qualified to even contest in the first place.
Well, the tribunal now found an ingenious way, in my view, in the best wisdom of the justice, to say that, well, he had other certificates that qualified him anyway, so why would you say because he forged this? I disagree with that reasoning. The reason why I disagree is because the law is that one of the things that make you disqualified, not qualified to contest that position and to occupy the position of a governor of a state or any election that the Electoral Act is that you have presented forged documents to INEC. That is I think that's section 282 or so of the Constitution. That would be one of the points that I'm sure the Court of Appeal will resolve. But about whether it should have been disqualified earlier on, INEC does not have the power to disqualify candidates. Political parties present candidates at their peril. So if you present anybody, INEC will take it and announce this is the certificate the person has presented and subject him to election. If he wins, he stands the danger of coming to this kind of situation where the opponents will now start pointing it out that the credentials submitted are forged.
So this is not something that can be contested before elections?
It can. It can. It is, in my view, both a pre-election matter and a matter that can be contested at the tribunals.
In your own view?
In my view. In
not,
my view.
Not according to the law.
I'm interpreting the law the way I see it.
Yeah.
The tribunal said, for the tribunal to have taken it and made a decision on it, the tribunal believes it's a matter that has come before it properly. But the tribunal is saying that, yes, this is a forged document. But there are other certificates that the candidate possesses which makes him qualified to contest that election. I disagree with that. For example, you may have a genuine PhD and have a forged primary 6 certificate. If you submit that primary 6 certificate, the fact that you have a PhD does not cure the fact that you forged a certificate. Because what the Constitution says is that for you to be disqualified, for you to have submitted a forged certificate to INEC, you are disqualified.
Right,
so the fact that it's a primary 6 school living certificate or even an unnecessary certificate that you have submitted, in my view, does not matter.
So the current governor has said that there is no majority judgment because only 2 judges read the verdict of the tribunal. Is there a loophole somewhere that can still be, that we can still, overturned?
Not that I can see. Not that I can see. I've engaged some lawyers on the other side, and I've seen what they're saying. There are provisions of our laws establishing different courts. The High Court has a law establishing it. The Court of Appeal has a law establishing it. The Supreme Court has its law establishing it. In the case of the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court, we're 5 here. Yes, I am 5. If all of us are to sit on a case, all of us will write individual judgments.
Yeah.
In certain cases, I may be given the responsibility to pronounce the judgment of the others. That is not the situation in an election tribunal. In an election tribunal, the practice as I know it, and on decisions that have been reached in issues where this dispute has gone to appellate courts, in Ojo and INEC, Balongu and Ikpezu and the rest of them, is that there is no obligation on members of the tribunal to write separate judgments. It will suffice if all of them append their signature to the judgments. In this situation, 2 people appended their signature to the majority judgment. The judge that was dissenting wrote a dissenting judgment. 3 people, 2 against 1.
Oh, so there was a dissenting judgment?
Oh, there was a dissenting judgment.
What did he say?
What the person who dissented said was that, in his view, 2 bases of dissent. 1, all of them agreed on the first ground that there was forgery of a certificate, but that was not sufficient to disqualify the candidate. So it was unanimous among the 3, as it should be for any reasonable man seeing a certificate bearing Osun dated 1981 to know that that is clearly a forgery.
Okay.
But on the second leg, what the other judge said was that, look, I've seen, number 1, you didn't bring the voters register, which was one of the ways to prove overvoting under the previous regime of the Electoral Act, simply because that is where you see the number of accreditation. How do I mean? If you say there are 50 people here registered in this polling unit, 35 of them have been accredited, you find that on the voters register. That has changed radically now. The voters register is not the instrument for accreditation anymore. It is the beavers. That was what the 2 others found. That, look, the law is that, and it is a mandatory provision. What it means is that, unlike before, and when you say, I've not been, they will ask you to go and clean your hand before smart card reader will capture it and the rest of it. No. If the beavers cannot accredit you, sorry, you cannot vote. Clearly stated in the law. Shall was the word that the drafters of the law made use of. Mandatory provision. Therefore, the argument of the petitioner was that, look, the number of people accredited can only be determined using the BVAS machine. We have brought the number by the report generated from the back end, which is, to me, the fantastic testimonial to what technology can do. If you go out of line by an inch, technology can catch it. In this situation, technology caught the malpractices.
But shouldn't INEC also be culpable in the sense that some people voted without accreditation? How did that happen? So we should be able to know that, because there are coming elections too. We don't want people just walking up, taking somebody to just go and vote without accreditation. So how do we avoid this from happening in coming elections?
Well, INEC needs to perfect its procedures, because INEC has given itself a very high standard by deploying technology. Technology is not a sentimental instrument. Once you give it to yourself, it will hold you to that standard. INEC deployed technology, and by that, it has given itself a very high cutoff mark. It has to live up to it.
So, but the question that I was going to ask that same question, but in a different way, which is that if obviously, based on the difference in what the INEC presented, there is showing culpability on the part of some INEC officials, shouldn't the next case be to prosecute those INEC officials so that it will serve as a strong deterrent for other people who can let funds of, because obviously there's corruption somewhere, somebody was bribed, somebody decided to
Prosecute and sack.
Prosecute and sack, in prison, possibly, so that we can be sure that any other person heading towards the presidential election and gubernatorial election will know how huge the cost of you collecting money to circumvent the system would be. Who would follow through to ensure that happens?
Well, the Electoral Act has provisions to punish people who do this kind of things. Okay. The Electoral Act is very clear about circumventing procedures, tampering with ballot papers, tampering with official documents, and the rest of it. Therefore, it is within the prerogative of INEC, and indeed law enforcement agencies, to say that, okay, if we find anybody culpable, like it has been established before the tribunal, we will prosecute. And it is, to me, it will be a right step in ensuring the sanctity of our electoral process.
So we heard that they've asked Adeleke to withdraw the certificate of return for Adeleke, but that hasn't happened. Do you have an idea when it might happen?
Well, we discussed it earlier on. I've told you he has 21 days. He has a 21 days window. Okay. If he appeals today,
which we're expecting him to, obviously,
nothing will happen to him until that window of appeal gets closed. It's either he wins, in which case he remains as governor, or he loses, in which case it is automatic. You know, it's automatic.
How do you feel about it? Do you think this is a clear-cut case and your client will have victory, or do you think this will take us many, many months, 120 days of trying to decide who's on the right and who's not?
Well, to me, the people who have seen witnesses, who have examined, an appellate process is to examine the judgment, to look through it, whether there are loopholes there, whether there are things on it that you can see as wrong. In my view, the fact that the people who saw witnesses, who examined the documents thoroughly, came to the conclusion that the person who scored the highest number of lawful votes, Mr. Gboyega Oyetola, is enough vindication for him, in my view. Because to win an election, what you need to score is the highest number of lawful votes. By implication, there are unlawful votes.
Okay, I think we can wrap up on that. But, I mean, it's an interesting, because as I said, this is the first time we're using BVAS, and we're all really looking forward to it working and ensuring Nigerians get a credible election come February. People are expecting that the manual process has stopped, and this electronic problem will ensure. So regardless of who is announced winner about the presidential, let us wait for what the BVAS will say about the proceedings that happened in the election. So I'm happy that we're seeing this.
Do you watch football?
I'm not only when Nigeria is playing.
Do you know what they call the VAR?
Yes.
Okay, you may have scored and jubilated.
Yes.
But when they go back to the VAR,
they can
the VAR
tell
can say you were just
offside.
slightly offside.
Yeah, exactly. That's what Beavers has done. All right, we'll see how that works for us in the presidential and the governorship election. Thank you so much, sir, for shedding some light on this for us.
Thank you very much.
That's all we can take on this segment. When we come back, it's Tuesday. We'll discuss other health issues. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. On our Healthy Tuesday, we will be discussing World Cancer Day, which has been observed worldwide every February 4th. It's important to continue to raise awareness about prevention, detection, and treatment. Joining us on the show is a renowned clinical radiation oncologist and a research program director of the NSIA Youth Cancer Center, Dr. Adedayo Joseph. She's also the founder of Doctors Cancer Foundation. Welcome to the show, madam.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. So we discuss cancer every year, and it's always a good opportunity to remind people on prevention. But can cancer really be prevented?
Some cancers can be prevented. Cervical cancer is one cancer that can be almost exclusively prevented through vaccination, through screening. Colorectal cancer, colon cancer, can also be prevented if you do a colonoscopy and they find a polyp. I don't want to go into too much medical terms. But some cancers can be prevented. Some cannot. They can only be detected early before they become advanced and often incurable.
You said there is a vaccine for cervical cancer.
Yes.
This is the first time hearing of it, or maybe I've heard
it's
that.
not.
No, you've heard about it.
Old age has made me forget. So please remind me.
You've heard about it, the HPV vaccine. So you might just not connect it to cervical cancer every time we think about it. And particularly because we're doing it in younger populations for now. But HPV vaccine prevents cervical cancer, prevents most cervical cancer. And with vaccination, you can almost exclusively prevent it. Another thing with cervical cancer is that screening detects it before it becomes cancer and can also remove the abnormality, can remove the abnormal parts before it becomes an actual cancer. So cervical cancer can be eradicated. There's a potential for it to be eradicated.
Wow.
I have an uncle that recently passed on, and it was really sad because he was healthy, perfect, living a happy life, fit, does stuff, and he just went for a medical checkup, and then they said he had liver cancer. But he said Jack Robinson, within a month or two, he was gone. How does that happen? Somebody who's not in his 70s, or somebody probably early 60s or late 50s, how does that happen?
Well, so the first thing is I'm probably the best person to tell you that cancer doesn't necessarily correlate with age. As you know, I work with a foundation for pediatric cancer, that's cancer in children. So the age is not really, I mean, yes, you expect it in older people, but again, it depends on the type of cancer we're discussing. The thing that is there, though, is that idea that someone was perfectly healthy and then, you know, it's progressed very rapidly. What happens is many times, and with many things that are not even with non-communicable disease like heart failure, heart disease, stroke, and co, it happens that it seems like the person is in perfect health, and then all of a sudden he has stroke. Is always sudden. It's always sudden. A heart attack is always sudden, but it's not really sudden though, because it's been building up until the point where you then have that so-called sudden effect. And that's why it's good to have a health check once a year, especially when you are over 40. There are certain things that you must do. You should have a mammogram every year. As a woman, you should have a pap smear every year.
Every year? I thought it was every 2 years or 3 years.
Well, so it depends on what the findings are, to be honest. But if you start at 40 and you've had your mammogram at 40 and you've had a pap smear, it depends on what the results are and what tests you do. So, for example, with cervical cancer, there are different combinations. If you do HPV DNA testing, you don't have to repeat it in another year or two. So I think you can even wait up to 5 years. So it depends on the level of testing you do, and it depends on what the results are. Sometimes, based on the results, you want to do something called an interval follow-up, where they want you to have it done again in 6 months because there's some questionable findings, but there's no definitive diagnosis of a malignant tumor. But the point here is that you should have a consultation and have a general health check. I think that's the important point.
So when we talk about cancer, it's always been the case of God forbid, God forbid, God forbid, because like it's one of those things that it seems like the Yoruba people call it arun jejere, like something that will just be eating, it eats people up, eats up funds, eats up life, and many people keep thinking, how can I, like on a prevention journey? It's a journey of let me eat, let me drink agbo, let me do all these things. What would you say is the most worrisome approach for you as a professional in terms of how to deal with diagnosis of cancer? What do you hear in your journey that makes you feel like, I need to put this out there for people not to do it?
I think the most important thing would be nutrition. So I was saying to someone recently, 86% of people ask me about nutrition by their second appointment of patients, ask me about nutrition. And what you find is many times they've been given very, very misleading information. So you find people who are on juice fasts, who are drinking only water for 2 days and eating on the third day only, who are on very, very restrictive diets that will not help and will only harm. And I try to explain to people this way: if you drink only water for the next 1 month and you don't take treatment, the cancer will continue to grow. You cannot starve it. It will take what it needs. It is the rest of your body that will starve and make you even weaker and more unable to fight the disease. So I think the one common myth that worries me the most will be nutrition. There's a lot of bad advice that goes around. It's good to be healthy. In fact, it's very important. Everybody is trying to get healthier, including myself. So it's important to be healthy, but it's like somebody has malaria, and then you say the treatment is to drink juice only for 1 week. That's not going to treat the malaria. It's not.
It won't.
Okay. Right.
When it comes to, the topic of cancer, there's this concern. Like, gosh, I hope as I'm talking about it, it's not in my vicinity. And in your being a practitioner in this space, would you say that Nigerian women are aware and educated about this? Would you say you're seeing more Nigerian women becoming more aware about cancer and all the treatments or investigations that they need to do? Or do you think that Nigerian women we need to reach more Nigerian women about cancer?
I think it's 3 things. I think the first thing is everyone in general in the whole world is afraid of cancer, and they should be, as it should be. I always say, if you're not afraid, you're not paying attention. It is scary. It is a difficult disease to have to treat. It will eat up finances. In any part of the world, it's very expensive to treat. And in particular with our population where there's very low insurance coverage, and it is devastating. The financial toll of cancer is devastating on any family. So it is scary. I think people are more aware in general of health. Generally, everybody's trying to live a healthier life. And I think it's a bit of a contradiction in that we're trying to get healthier, even though our lifestyle is generally more unhealthy. Our parents walked more, exercised more, ate healthier. We tend to eat more unhealthy. We eat out more. We cook less. We exercise. We're coming from our car into our office. So we're less active than their generations. However, we're more health aware than they are. They didn't do those things out of a health consciousness. It was just their lifestyle. We are more health lifestyle aware than their generation would, but our lifestyle is unhealthier. So it's a bit of a contradiction when you think about it. But in terms of cancer specifically, there's definitely increased awareness now. I wouldn't say that we have reached even 70% coverage, because most of the data that you're getting is from urban centers. You cannot poll Lagos and Abuja and think that you have a good picture of Nigeria. You don't. The greater population of people are not included in that urban poll. So I do think we need a lot more coverage than we have.
Let's talk about after diagnosis, because we talk a lot of prevention, how can you do not to get cancer, but now a lot of people are diagnosed with cancer, and their fear is, do we have the right equipment in Nigeria to treat it? Can I get proper treatment in Nigeria? Where do I go? Do I look for a cancer center, or can I just go for I can't afford a cancer center. I'd like to go to a regular doctor. What are the options available in Nigeria?
First of all, I want to thank you for that question. That's just an excellent question, because we talk a lot about prevention, but the truth about it is that people are going to be diagnosed. And I tell people that there are 3 million breast cancer survivors in the world, so cancer can be survived. it can be treated. It's expensive, it's difficult, but it can be treated and it can be... And we really need to begin to talk about that. Yes. As much as we talk about detection, prevention, there will be people who will be diagnosed, and we don't know who. You know, now we talk about 1 out of every 10 men, 1 out of every 10 women will have cancer in her lifetime. So at some point we need to think about, if it happens, what do I do? And I'm just really grateful for that question. Now, to answer the question in terms of what we have, the progress that Nigeria has made in the last 3 to 5 years, let me say, is astounding. I can tell you, Sydney, if I was just reading messages now about a new center that was commissioned in another state in Nigeria, in the center where I work, the NSI Youth Cancer Center, we have 3 linear accelerators. We have curative treatment for cervical cancer. We have brachytherapy for cervical cancer. We have chemo suites. We're affiliated with the hospital where we have surgeons and everything. And we have survivors. It's early to present our survival data because you want to wait 10 years, 5 years before you start talking about it. But we're successfully eradicating cancer every single day. I tell my friends, when I'm playing with my friends, I say, you know how they say, you're too serious, are you curing cancer? Yes, I am, absolutely. Absolutely. So we do have treatment available. The progress that we've made in the last half decade has been wonderful.
Wow, fantastic.
Yes.
I just want to, you know, because there are people like me who are always afraid when you get all this, it's not my portion.
Oh, suddenly it's not your portion.
Mariah's uncle, for instance, he was okay. As according to Mariah's story, he was okay. Just said, let him go for checkup. As he just went for the checkup, they just diagnosed cancer. From the minute he diagnosed cancer, within 1 month, if he hadn't gone, would he still have been here?
So here is the thing, though. If unfortunately he's not here for us to ask him, but you will find that if you probe a little deeper, there was something wrong, and that's why he went for that checkup. He felt some kind of ill, and that's why he wanted to go and check, number one. Number two is that the truth is, even if he didn't, eventually the symptoms will show up, eventually. And what will happen is, he was perfectly fine, and then in just 1 week, we were hearing something else.
No, that's not true. I went for checkup last year, and I wasn't feeling ill.
Well, yes, but most people don't. Most people don't do it until they feel something is wrong. Many times, most people. I don't know this person's specific story, but this is what I can say. Even if you don't do a checkup, the symptoms will eventually show up. The checkup didn't cause the cancer. It was there, and it was going to show up one way or the other. However, what I can say is there's so many angles to this. Is what was the psychological care that he received after? What was the cancer care that he did? So part of the question I didn't speak to is that cancer has to be treated in a cancer center. It has to be treated by specialists. Unfortunately, I'm a medical doctor. I went to medical school. I know how to deliver a baby, but it would not be right for me to try to do that. Because if it became complicated in any kind of way, I would be as lost as the woman who is having the baby. That's the truth. Because if you are not doing something every single day, spending your life and your time studying it and learning it and being immersed in it, you simply cannot be the best person to handle it.
Let me give you an experience of my mom. And her and somebody else. So my mom had cancer, which she knew about, pancreatic cancer. And there was somebody else I heard that had the same cancer that she had. So his doctor was in Germany. So he went to Germany. He was feeling, he went for holidays. He was feeling somehow sick. He just went to go and check his doctor in Germany. And based on what they found, they told him, bro, go home, put your house in order. You don't have more than 3 months. And when he came back home, all he did was prepare. Put his will in order, planned his burial, did every funeral, put a committee for his funeral. He planned his entire funeral because he had 3 months based on his doctor. It was clear. And that 3 weeks or so to it, he started to deteriorate, and he knew he was going. My mom, on the other hand, the doctors kept saying 6 to 8, 1 year, 18 months, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm hopeful. I'm thinking, okay, there's something that, I'm feeling like there's long term. Nobody told me I got 3 months. Nobody told me, like, listen, no, this is it, and we're hopeful. Is it that we don't have enough equipment to know the degree of what we're dealing with? Or it's just, it's cancer. So what that was the difference? Because I felt that hits me a bit. I feel like I wish somebody told me, you got just 2 months, 3 months, then we can put certain things in order.
So here is the thing. I'm one of the most aggressive advocates for letting people know what the prognosis is. And I have senior colleagues. There's a bit of a generational gap in this prognosis matter, in discussing these things. And so, let me tell you one of my earliest experiences is I had a patient who had lung cancer. And I mean, she was poor. There's something when we say, look, she has started dying. The process of dying has started. And her sons were doctors. So I called them and said, listen, you need to come and be by your mom's bedside. I'm not even sure she's going to make it till morning. This is it. We're at the end. We've given it our best shot. You know, unfortunately, we're at the end now, and it's time to say goodbye. So come and sit by mom. Come and give her hugs. You know, shower her with love. She's going. And she needed platelet transfusion. And her sister was saying she wants to transfuse. And I was telling her, look, there's no point doing this. Let her go in peace. We're just tormenting her at this point. And her sister insisted and said, no, I'm going to transfuse this woman. Anyway, to cut this long story short, she went on to live 2 years after that. Wow. After I told her she's dying tonight. Yes, she went on to live 2 years. And I can't even begin to tell you how many people like that have said, listen, I give it 6 months. And then 6 years later, they're still coming to the clinic.
Testimony based on your story.
Don't you hear the stories in the hospital? The doctors
said,
gave me 3 months, and here I am now. So you have to get to that point. You have to get to that point where you find an honest balance to say, this is what the data says. But I cannot give you a timeline. I don't. The truth is that, again, a lot of the data that we're referencing is Caucasian data. It's not data in our population. So you find many times that what the data says does not correlate with what you find clinically. And so I have had to learn the hard lesson of respecting my seniors when they tell me, stop telling people they have 3 months and 6 months. You don't know how much time they have. I have also told somebody, listen, this is not going to kill you. We're going to manage it. And he's dead in a week. Wow. Jesus. I've also said that. Because you don't have all-knowing power to know how. You can treat 2 people the exact same way, with the same diagnosis, with the same medication, and they respond very differently.
The other one's juju's.
It's not about... you know, we watch all
Cancer
this,
biology is very interesting.
I've watched a few of all people that have recovered, survived from cancer, now set up a YouTube channel and talk about their experiences and all of that. And I've watched a particular guy's story, and he was talking about the power of your beliefs. So I'm a belief person. I believe that our beliefs make us and we make our beliefs.
So am I.
So how some people just think, because if you feel like it is over and then sort of you're not able to will your body into making the drugs work or whatever process you're going through. So these people on YouTube feel that we're going through all the treatment, but we strongly believe that we are going to survive, and the strength of our faith, and somebody else that did not believe it did not work. So what's the place of having therapy, mental health support while on this journey? What do you feel like Nigerian medical system is giving mental health support to people who are going through cancer?
So again, this is an excellent question. And if you remember when we were talking about her uncle, I said, what sort of psychological care did he receive after? And I am a strong believer in belief and faith. And I tell people that, listen, whatever it is you believe in, if you don't believe in a higher power, believe in yourself and your ability to go through treatment successfully, it makes a huge difference. And sometimes that difference cannot be documented and measured in numbers, you know, but you can tell anecdotally that this makes a difference. The difference between someone who feels defeated and who is unsupported and who is alone, and the difference and someone who is optimistic and who has a great support system and who believes very much in something or the other is always very clear. And it is clear even in how they respond to treatment. So it has a huge place. In my center, again, for example, the Youth Cancer Center, the NSI Youth Cancer Center, we have a psycho-oncology program that supports everyone, you know, and you have the opportunity to speak with a counselor and even to receive medication if you need it, if you need medication. And I do think our system has not always been as conscious of this as it should be. But again, you have to look at all the factors. It's not entirely the system's fault. Right. When you're struggling to pay even the cost of care, the cost of the actual treatment, psychologist, spending money on mental health care can seem like we don't yet have money for this. It's just as you go along, you begin to realize how important it is, and it is part of the treatment.
Let me take this call from Olarinwaju. Good morning, Olarinwaju. Are you there? From the UK.
Good morning,
You're live.
and the lady. Good morning. Yeah.
Honey.
You know, my contribution to this. Hello?
Well, you're live. Go ahead, please.
Okay. My contribution to this is that in UK here as well, doctor can tell you that you have maybe 3 days, even a week to live. And people live even maybe 5 years later before they die. The point people forget is that God is the creator. He has the power in his hand. And he's showing us that we as a human being, we can speak. It's him that we put.
Larry, I lost that call. I'm so sorry. Yes, Miriam had a question.
Yes, I just want to go back to nutrition again. And a lot of people talk about the place of sugar in the cause and also maybe the treatment of cancer. How impactful is sugar in our diet to the spread of cancer and maybe the effect of treatment on cancer, or it doesn't play any role at all?
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say is we have to, first of all, clarify that we're talking about refined sugar.
Yes.
So there's sugar in a lot of things. There's sugar in yam, in rice, but that's not the sugar we're talking about. We're talking about refined, unhealthy sugar here. Now, it has a place in disease because it makes you overweight, it impacts your immunity and all of that. And so sugar does cause disease, okay? Refined sugar combined with an unhealthy lifestyle in an excessive amount causes disease. When cancer is established, there are 3 ways to eradicate it that I can speak of. Radiotherapy, surgery, and chemotherapy. And chemotherapy is everything, hormonal, immunotherapy, and all of that. At that point, I even explain to people that at this point, you actually even need calories to be able to fight the tumor, to be able to go through treatment successfully. This is not the time to go on a restrictive diet, which is what unfortunately tends to happen. At this point in time, if you, like I said, if you drink only water for the next 1 year, it has no impact on the tumor. The tumor will grow. It will feed itself. It has everything that is in your body it needs. It will take it. It has nothing to do with what you put into your body at this point anymore. That's not to say that somebody who is on treatment, like any normal person, not to say that anyone who is not, I shouldn't have said normal, but anyone who is, you know, behaving the way they should not be taking excessive amounts of sugar. Right. So, I mean, what I usually ask patients when they say, what can I eat or what should I not eat? I say to them, okay, so don't drink battery acid and don't drink insecticide. You know, we start laughing. And I say to them, what do you eat? You eat rice and stew, eba and efo. The normal things that's fine. If you don't spend all your time taking pizza and fried chicken and unhealthy food, fast food, you will be fine. Right. You can have it even once in a while, as long as it's not too much. Right. Instead, let's talk about tobacco, let's talk about alcohol, and those things that you do need to really cut down and try to eliminate at this point in time.
Okay, there's a question I wanted to ask you, because I know when people have cancer and they're dealing with these kind of issues, they get advice from all over. Take soursop, don't eat any more carbs, only take vegetables, you know, and don't do chemotherapy. That chemotherapy is a death trap. Don't try chemo, just go and be eating, they'll give you these vitamin supplements, so use this one every day in the morning. And people come in sort of telemarketing and tell you, this one cure this cancer, that one cure this cancer. Don't believe all the medicines they've given to us. Could you give us some clarity? Because sometimes it gets a bit convoluted when you have so much information, and as a patient, you're wondering, what do I do?
Again, it's very simple. There are people who say, my grandmother, for example, had this herbal concoction for malaria at that time. And she believed very strongly in it, that if you have malaria and you drink this, you'll be fine. When my mom and I have conversations, the first thing I say to her is, did you do a malaria test to diagnose the malaria before you even know if, you know? So it's possible that there are remedies out there that may work. Unfortunately, they have not been properly trialed and tested. For you to be, the whole point of treatment is, I need to be sure that I can replicate this thing in whoever else comes along. If it works for A and it doesn't work for B and it doesn't work for C, D, and E, then it possibly works for F. That's not a treatment that you can replicate, and it's not something that you should prescribe. So that it worked randomly somewhere is not, for me, enough evidence, and for the medical community, enough evidence for you to prescribe it. For you to prescribe it, you need to be able to predict that when I give it in this dose, I expect this response. And that is what chemotherapy is. And again, like I said, there are millions of cancer survivors in the world that have gone through these treatments. Nobody's going to pretend that chemotherapy is easy or pleasant, but it works when you do it right. If it is done wrong in the hands of somebody who is not qualified to use it, then it can really become fatal. It can become dangerous. That's what I would say about that.
Okay,
Yeah, because he killed my sister, but that's not what I have a friend whose husband was diagnosed with cancer, and so they changed his diet. And this is like 10, 15 years now. The cancer is still at that stage, small stage. It's not growing and it's not reducing, but he's following this strict diet.
What type of cancer did he have?
I think it's prostate.
So you know that one of the, because I could have told you that it was prostate cancer. Because when you diagnose prostate cancer now, there are different treatment options. And depending on, we do something called risk stratification. If it is a low-risk tumor, we do what we call active surveillance. You don't do anything, you just observe the person. Because when we talk about prostate cancer, we talk about men who are going to die with prostate cancer rather than from prostate cancer. Because there are some forms of prostate cancer that are so indolent that nothing is going to happen for the rest of his lifetime. You don't actually need to intervene. There are some that you need to intervene, and we have that more commonly in black men, unfortunately. Black men and African-American men tend to have more aggressive forms of cancer, and they develop it younger. That's prostate cancer. However, there are some forms of prostate cancer that are indolent. And I see patients with prostate cancer in the clinic, and I tell them, we're going to just monitor you for now. We don't need to do any aggressive intervention at this time. And they remain stable like that for years without any treatment. So that is the first thing. I don't know that the diet, it always helps to get healthier. So if you change your diet to a diet that is healthy, there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is many times the diet they change to is unhealthy. You cut out nutrition groups that you need. You become so calorie deficient that you then develop other problems. That is the problem.
I have to wrap up, but I have to ask you this personal question that came to mind. How do you manage seeing somebody today, they're dead tomorrow, in and out daily, and you are still back to work, and you're treating the next person, and you know this person might die in one day, you know? And you're a doctor, and you're a mother, you're a wife, and I'm thinking, so how do you manage that emotion? How do you manage to even live for the next day? You're talking to us.
Yeah, here talking to me. I'm thinking of how I'm going to manage you visiting us.
You are talking all this English now. We are living here, probably going to the hospital, going to see another patient, God forbid. You know? So I'm thinking, how do you put it all together?
So I will be honest. I will be honest and reveal that it does have a significant toll. It does take a toll, especially when, well, maybe not for everyone, but for me, because I work with children a lot. So there are days when you go to your house and you just fall down on the floor and you're, in a mess. Other days you get up, you pick yourself up, and you just have to keep going. One of the things that happens is at some point it becomes a job. So you sort of become a little bit immune. The problem with that is that you have to remember your humanity. If you become too immune, you lose your empathy.
Right.
So you have to keep pulling yourself back to, remain in that place where you remember that the person sitting in front of you is somebody's whole world. Is, something happens to them and there's a whole family out there that's going to be devastated. And you have to try to remind yourself of that with 30 different people that you're seeing on a daily basis. So that balance where you're able to detach from it when you finish and go home and still be okay with your family and okay with yourself, while remembering all of that is what can be a little bit difficult to find.
All right, I have
but
to
you
go.
find it.
I have to
Well
go.
done.
Well
What you do
done.
with your foundation as
Thank
well.
you.
Hope you're not jackpotting anytime soon.
You better not.
Well, not yet.
Yes, that's a big word.
Is that not yet?
Okay.
Put that here.
That's
just
all
know that
we
they are
can
about
take.
to
We've been speaking with Dr.
all
Adedayo Joseph. She is a renowned clinical radiation oncologist and research program director at the NSIA Luth Cancer Center and the founder of Doctors Cancer Foundation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Have a great day. We'll see you
Thank you,
tomorrow.
everyone.
Bye for now.